Hey, what's up everybody? Chris here. And before we get into this video, I wanted to talk briefly about my YouTube goals for this year, for 2022. So we're squarely now in January in 2022, and we're a little over 400 subscribers, which is awesome. The channel continues to grow, I think, at kind of a steady clip. It slows down here and there, but in 2022, my goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers. So I'm going to try to be as consistent as I can be with churning out content, quality content that focuses on the things that we like to talk about, movies, gaming, all of that good stuff. If you have ideas for things that you would like me to focus on, please be sure to leave those in the comments for this video or any other video, and I'll be happy to explore that and see what we can do there. But let's see if we can get to 1,000 subscribers this year. If you haven't already yet subscribed, please be sure to do that. As always, I really appreciate everybody's viewership. Now let's talk about the Book of Boba Fett Episode 3. So I made a video recently where I talked about the first 2 episodes and just kind of offered my thoughts about whether or not I thought this show is any good. So far, I think it's pretty good. It's definitely not on the level of The Mandalorian, for example, and maybe even some other Star Wars movies like Rogue One, that sort of thing. But I think it is a pretty solid show. I think this episode does a lot of things right. I think there is one glaring thing that detracts from the pacing a little bit. And I will say that consistent pacing is one of the issues I've noticed with this show so far. I think that's the biggest issue in episode 3, among other things. But there is a lot of stuff it gets right. And I think what Jon Favreau and company consistently do well is build on the lore of Star Wars, right? So here we get a lot of information about Rancors and what a calf or baby Rancor looks like and how they grow and how they imprint on humans. That's the kind of stuff, as a massive Star Wars fan, that I love. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see. And this show does a good job of that sort of thing. Again, back in episode 2 of this show where you've got sort of the train heist and the droid driving the train, piloting the train, that's the kind of stuff that I like. And again, we get to see more about the underbelly of Tatooine and Mos Espa and Mos Eisley and all of that here, and I think that that's really cool. But I think the one thing that drags us down a little bit, really, for me, is the whole sequence with the motorcycle gang or the speeder gang. It just feels like the whole thing is moving in slow motion, and I think that that was kind of a weird choice to film it in the way that they did. I also don't love the color schemes for the actual speeders themselves. That's kind of a weird nitpick, I know. And I know that the showrunners are probably going for kind of a classic motorcycle gang motif in the way that they set that up. And it does cause the bikes to kind of pop in the otherwise sort of drab atmosphere of Tatooine. But to me, it would have been cool if they had sort of traditional Imperial speeders that they had souped up or done things to, because these people seem to augment themselves with other technology anyway, salvage technology, that sort of stuff. Why not sort of, incorporate what we're already familiar with and kind of build on that a little bit? I don't know. It felt a little bit odd to me, that whole sequence. But everything else about this episode I actually really enjoyed. I liked seeing the warrior Wookiee sequence where this Wookiee, and I forget the Wookiee's name, ends up in Boba Fett's palace, formerly Jabba's palace, to try and assassinate him. And I think if there's one criticism people could level at this, is that Boba Fett seems to be much more benevolent than you would otherwise expect from a bounty hunter. But I think his experience with the Tusken Raiders, is what has sort of made him a little bit more forgiving and a little bit more relatable, if you want to look at it that way. I think the sequence where we see that the Tusken Raiders have been murdered maybe doesn't play as well as they would have hoped. I mean, to me, I got the sense that they wanted the audience to have sort of this emotional sort of response to that. And I, sort of looked at it and said, oh, well, that's something that shaped Boba Fett and turned him into the person that he is. But I wasn't necessarily overly sad about it. I don't know if it's just the way it was presented or the way it was built up to. I don't know. But so, again, I think so far what I'm seeing with this show and with episode 3 is the lore building is good. Everything else kind of works and fits and starts. But I'm the kind of person that loves Star Wars so much that I just want more of it. So I'm just appreciative and happy that we have a show. Again, not as good as The Mandalorian. That's really what I'm looking forward to. In addition to Obi-Wan, I talked about that with my previous comments on the Book of Boba Fett. But I think the Obi-Wan show is going to be amazing. I just think there's now this love for the prequels that wasn't there when they were released. And I'm old enough to remember that, having seen them all in theaters, remembering that response that really sort of lasted for a long time. And it's interesting to see how that's kind of turned as the years have gone on. But anyway, I'm excited about that. But if you've seen the Book of Boba Fett, especially this most recent episode, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.